I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I told you I don't understand the cheat, yeah.
And hey, welcome back to the Wesley James Show. I'm joined by my friend Kevin, and we don't do this often enough, but when we do it, we have a good time. When we do.
We do. When we fucking do.
I don't know if anybody caught the title.
Catching wind.
Well,
Civil
that's the
War.
one on YouTube.
Let me have my yeah.
Let me have a yeah.
Let me have my yeah. UFC fights.
Last night. It was pretty awesome. We saw a couple legs get destroyed last night. Did anybody else see that out there? That was interesting.
Felt bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Do we even pull up a video or pull up a picture?
No.
No? Okay.
Because Weidman's cool. But I don't know. Other people will. You know how other people are going to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's probably millions of memes of Weidman.
Yeah, you all got the internet. You can go find it yourself. Chris Weidman's...
We don't want to give you stupid names.
I mean, I kind of do. I kind of
I don't want to give you stupid names.
I kind of want to give you stupid names.
But yeah, the fights were good. Right. Did you have any objections?
No. Thug Rose.
Thug Rose. Head kick, lead leg.
Cheers to Thug Rose.
Yeah, she's nice. She's cool.
Well done. That was awesome. I was pulling for Zhang Weili. Actually, I was pulling for every Chinese fighter last night. Was awesome. They're all really sharp. And I was pulling for them all. Remember that one, Liang Na? Is that what his name was?
Yeah, the first one, I think it was a she. Liang Na is the first fight. She's a fucking badass. Yeah. And she was fighting that hill. I call her the beefy chick. Something Lassie. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
Carnelossi. Something like that.
Thank God for the UFC. I'm just gonna say it, right? They're my new NFL.
I'm disappointed they took the tackling out. But at the same time, I know why, because it's just brain damage shit. So it's like, it makes sense that they would. But it makes it way less interesting.
Yeah. I mean, to some people, I guess. For those, I don't know if you can call people traditionalists or whatever, but I guess that the game has always advanced. The game of football has always advanced. I mean, these leather helmets, right? So they continue to try to make it safer and safer and safer. So you.
What about rugby though?
But it's very European. Or very non-American, I should say, because other countries besides European countries play it. But,
yeah.
But the whole point of it is to play without pads or protection. That's the whole point. Everybody knows what the risks are.
Hard as shit. It's pretty crazy. You seen rugby videos?
Mm-hmm.
You seen the fighting videos where they have like group fighting?
No.
Some of the they had 3-on-3, and they trade off. So the two stand in the back on each side.
In rugby?
No, no. It's like MMA.
Oh, okay.
Team
No,
fighting.
yes, I have seen that. And
Okay.
like Russia, for example, I've seen the Russians have these 5-on-5 team fights.
Do they fight all at the same time, or is it 1-on-1 and they trade off?
No, they fight all at the same time, and then like when you pound somebody out and they're like done, they lay there and then you move on and basically go 2-on-1 with whoever your buddy is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're done with that, and then you and your buddy go roll on somebody else. That's what it looked like.
They have a different one too, where it's a rectangular ring. It's long, and then they keep there's 3-on-3, and they'll keep the two guys, the other two in the back, and then the other two fight, and whoever takes over, the new guy comes in, and so they just go through like that. But it's only 3-on-3, and those are pretty nasty, dude. Because there's dudes that would beat up the first two, and then he beat that guy and be worn out, and then this next two guys come, and usually they save like the better fighters for the end.
That makes sense.
And they had smaller dudes and bigger dudes. It was pretty funny.
So what's the purpose of the rectangular cage?
I think just give them more room. So it's like, so the two other teammates on both sides can sit at the corners out of the way. So they use, they're kind of just the two barriers. Unless the fight gets too far in that corner, then they'll move back around and they'll move back around. Let's see. It's pretty cool. I forgot what it's called. You can look it up on the internet. It is like Russia. I think it was in Russia, or it's with, or in Germany somewhere.
Yeah, isn't it weird that like America is pretty badass, but like not that badass to where we're like exploring these weird combat sports. I don't want to call them weird as if they're.
Well, America's such a baby country though. I mean, it's only been, but even then, I mean, so you go back before. Okay, we'll talk about the colonizing. That's what people are gonna want to say. We'll talk about when Native Americans, when pretty much Europeans took over this land, and in that sense, the idea of the United States, as it is now, is relatively a young country. Being American is a relatively, in the terms that we classify it, not Native American, American through, nationality of the country we created. It's such a baby country that it's like, it's a melting pot of everything else. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like, you take all of Europe, and then all the other influences that came in with that, and Native American influence, and war.
Well, we did have weird combat things back in the day. Like there used to be the duel.
The duel, yep.
Right. It's a pretty American thing, I think.
Pretty
but I
wild,
wasn't
dude.
alive. Wasn't alive back then, and I guess I haven't done enough reading on it to be able to say much about it. But I thought that was somewhat of a big thing in the Wild Wild West. Until people settled their differences.
Beyond duels, they would just shoot motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like over nothing, or even sometimes just Jesus, you're killing me, buddy. Sometimes just for the. I don't know. Yeah, the Wild Wild West is interesting, dude. When you Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West.
If you look up, like not statistics, if you look up the history of what people actually did, it's pretty crazy. And what was allowed, like what you could do, dude, how you could move around. It's a different time, like in the 20s. If you were from like a foreign country or not, even if you were in the United States, like they didn't have good enough records of people's names, they didn't have fingerprints, they didn't have shit, dude. You could move from state to state, country to country, and just change your fucking name.
Well, why would you want to?
What would be whatever you wanted to.
Just like to escape an old life type thing?
Yeah, or just, let's say you're a fucking criminal. So let's say you go to one town and let's say you're a criminal class. Let's just be ideal, And let's say you go into a town and you find people in that town, like a couple people who are like leading the underworld of that town, and then you check how morally responsible they are, and you find out that they're not. So you think, okay, I'm just gonna kill them and take all their shit. So you kill them, take all their shit, and then move like 4 states over. Now your name's Charles fucking Douglas. And I mean at that time, dude, unless they have like up to a certain point, dude, you could move and just change who you are. Or you change your appearance a little bit, change your clothes, make sure you have money. You'd have to have money. So even if you were rich too, you know, let's say a town went to shit. Let's say grew up in a town, you know, that just goes to shit.
That's interesting. Um, when Kev used to live here, we watched a movie. I forget what the title was, but it was about this. It was about a family, just a family of three. It was a father, a mother, and a son. That's how the movie started, and it was in like the early 1900s, and they lived out in Kansas, like in the middle of. I mean, I just threw Kansas out there. It could have been Missouri. It's one of those middle America states, amongst the farms, and she they didn't get along. The mother and father didn't get along, and he ended up killing her and throwing her down the dry well, and the kid was involved, and he convinced the son to go along with all this stuff, and sheriff came looking around. I've seen your wife. She took off. She wanted something better for her life, type of thing, you know. And that's people back then. You had to just kind of accept that it was because there's no paperwork, there's no trail, there's no way.
If there's no evidence, I mean, I don't know. It depend. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
How would they even deal with that if they had a case where someone was murdered and they didn't? Because if people confess to it, they get in trouble.
Oh, absolutely, sure. But
if they're like, I don't know what happened to her, you know.
But back then, you didn't really talk to anybody. I guess unless you went to church, they didn't look like they were church-faring people, and at least regular anyway. But they lived out in the middle of nowhere, to the point where, and there was no records on anything. To the point where, you could just off somebody and be like, yeah, I don't know, they took off. Strange. Where these days, everything, there's a camera and shit on stuff, right? Like, so, like, if you live with somebody and you're like, I don't know, they just took off, but you actually killed them buried in the backyard, there'd be a ATM camera or a grocery store, of their last trip to the grocery store, or the last trip, or their last time they used their cell phone, or something, Whereas back then, there was no, oh, we don't know when the last time, they just take people's word for it. Nowadays, there's going to be and even going into the future, there's going to be this electronic stamp on everything.
We'd have to literally, because I know I haven't studied, so like I'm not an expert in any way about about specifically Wild West history. We just know all around that they didn't have that same kind of like they do today, where they have your fingerprints.
Oh, right.
They have everything mapped out. They have satellites.
Mm-hmm.
They know where everything is. They have cops everywhere in every state with all sorts. Like they have the entire jurisdiction mapped the fuck out completely, and there's no little room for error. And even though there's a lot of corruption, and probably higher up there's more than lower, it's still like nowhere near the freedom you had to be corrupt and just shift sides like you could in the Wild West, because there's not. That's how people could take over towns and how they could do what they did. But it's pretty interesting. But it's fucked up though, because the Wild West, a lot of that was, like Native Americans, Mexicans, and pretty much Europeans hacking over, the bottom half of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the history of the world, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I guess it's about proximity, because it is ultimately, if you were talking about civilization in itself, like, for instance, Jewish people are what you'd call a modern marvel. They, historically speaking, should not exist compared to other, ethnic groups or races around at that time. Because think about it today, like, do you see Sumerians? Do you see Mesopotamians? Do you see Akkadians? There was people called Akkadians, Akkaids. Sumerians, Mesopotamians, in the Jewish people, along with Egyptians, were alive back then. But the difference is Jewish people never had their own kingdom. So they were always people who were in someone else's kingdom. Yet, while all the while all the races or ethnic groups that owned their own fucking shit the Jews lived in, they all died out, but Jews lived, and that is just fucking like that's amazing. Absolutely, like historically speaking, because a lot of they usually get bred out. You can't live in a different, you can't be ruled over as an ethnic group minority and not get bred out. It's like that's a part of history too. Like, and that's how we take over. Like that's a lot of how war would be, dude. Invade and breed people out. Like
Breed all you Trumpers out of here.
And slaves, they used to have like Native American slaves or other because a lot of races had slaves, and they would sacrifice slaves to show how powerful they were, like in a sense, like they'd say like I have so many. The numbers of my slaves are so vast that merely one could be shot off a cliff and. Like I would not bat an eye, like that's what I mean. Like they were really fucking like that, dude. It's amazing, but yeah. So we've come pretty far in certain ways, but in other ways, it's like we can't see. That's how I hate. This is what I don't like about people. It's like we have come far for sure. Whether it's facade and whether that's good or placebo or not, or whether it's genuine in some pockets, or whether there's it's a multitude of differences of what is civility, but that other dark shit that accompanies history doesn't just disappear. So my problem is we're getting too ahead of ourselves as like a species or collective or civilization where we're like we can just manifest, and all of this baggage that we're running from, that we're the culmination of everyone that came before us, we can just we're just gonna to me it's like standing in front of a tsunami and thinking I'm just gonna dodge this.
I'm gonna dive under it.
I'm
gonna dive under it I do other ways.
It's just gonna be a regular this hurricane. I'm gonna swim into it. Yeah, I don't think it's a very good idea. I think you want to be the person like 14 miles away. Like, wow, that's. I mean, honestly, because what do people want you to do? They're like, no, Joe, run into the hurricane with us. I mean, it's like, come on, you guys don't run at the hurricane. Let's not do that. No, you're just scared. You don't want to participate. No, let's not run at the hurricane.
So what do you mean by?
I don't even know. I'm making an analogy. I don't even know. I just being.
I was trying to think about because we certainly are living with a certain amount of momentum from our past, right?
We have to be. Just emotional, but everything that's said, even the lens of every single civilization that's already there. Like it's just such a mix of biology, philosophy, ideology, science, religion. Everything's built off of everything that came before it, and in every single way, like even ways we can't even imagine. Even with, I mean, it's crazy. Even with animals that died off, even with civilizations that died off, they still. Like they have histories, so it's fucking. The world is complex as shit to someone like me. I think it's complex. I think you could put it in simple terms, but I don't know why the fuck you'd want to, unless you're talking to people who can only think in simple terms. You know what I mean? Like.
I mean, I would put it in simple terms just to get through my day.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's a lot less. It's a lot less mentally exhausting. It's not that you couldn't.
Paralysis by analysis. I could fucking analyze everything.
To death.
To death, absolute death. Matter of fact, I do. A lot of times when I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm just like, bouncing back and forth between shit.
Yeah. But
it's good. Nothing wrong with it. What I find is interesting though is we are definitely living with a certain momentum of our past, and like one of the things that I pointed out, and I haven't seen very many people point out, not tooting my own horn or anything, but just saying, there was a problem, and I think everybody sees a problem with the war on drugs, or at least reasonable people see the problem with the war on drugs. I think there was a problem, and I think people see a problem. Reasonable people see the problem with the war on terror. And I personally think that there is a problem, and I think that most reasonable people see that there is a problem with the war on COVID. And I think they're very, very much correlated. I don't think
Let's go into the intricacies. Let's. I like where you're going.
I just think that the preceding two, the war on drugs and the war on terror, has given our government the right, the justification to spend copious amounts of money, to print and spend copious amounts of money, and basically keep themselves in power. Every last one of them. I don't care who they are, if it's Pelosi or Matt Gaetz or Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell, or I don't care who. If they've been in Congress for any longer than 6 years, then they're just a leech on the public system, and they've. And maybe things are a lot more complicated up there, trying to get things passed and trying to pull out of stupid wars and trying to cancel out bills and laws regarding the policing of victimless crimes. I think that's obviously an issue. I mean, one of the things that we're dealing with right now in our communities is the policing and the big brouhaha around supposed racial profiling. I mean, I know that racial profiling exists, but I don't think it's a systemic. I don't think it's a systemic thing. I think it's individualized, as most things are. It just depends on who they are, what their background was, and that sort of thing. But I think that we could eliminate a lot of those issues if we weren't policing victimless crimes. So I draw back on the war on drugs, for example. It's kind of a failed policy, right? And it's kind of led us into exactly what an issue is now. And it's, what we're talking 50 years later, 45 years later, war on drugs. And now we're seeing the repercussions of it, which is we have the highest per capita criminals in jail, right? Especially for nonviolent crimes. And then we also have the police on the spotlight in social media because they keep killing people that they're supposed to just detain or hopefully detain. Or I don't actually know what society wants of police officers right now, to be honest with you. But anyway, I think that I just opened it up to a larger conversation. I think that like I said, the war on drugs, the war on terror, now we've got a war on COVID.
We'll start with the war on drugs and terror. And what was the other one?
War on COVID.
COVID. Okay, so we'll start with COVID. Number one, COVID. They didn't treat it like they would a war. From right when it started. I mean, like the second it started.
Yeah.
If they were really like, okay, this is going to be detrimental to the economy. If we're going to lose a bunch of fucking money, why not just set up everything how we had it 7 months later now? The second it even caught word there's a huge virus that's spreading or whatever it is going to be. So to me, because they waited 2 months, to me what that says is there's money here.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. That's what I thought, because it was like, it was really a war. If it's really a war, go now, dude. Why the fuck are we... That's how we are with war. We're going tomorrow. We need to go blow some people up.
They mobilized on the vaccine.
But that's
all they really did.
So I just want to say, with the war on COVID, for me, it's gonna have parallels with everything else. Number one, they're not fighting it the correct. Obviously, they use some, like, it's like they have some rationality, and then they're just stupid. And it's the same with terror and drugs, because it's like a lot of their institutions need that shit. But we're going to war on terror and crime and drugs, even though we wouldn't exist without those things. How are you going to win that war, dude, when you're part of it? Like, I mean, perpetually. You don't have a salary without terrorists and crime and drugs. You know, when you're talking to people, and it's like I understand where you're coming from. And so what it is to me is just like it has to be deeper issues than just just declaring war on a problem might not always be the solution. Maybe so it's.
Well, to be fair, nobody actually declared war on COVID. I did.
Well, no, but they kind of did.
They kind of did.
You know
but
what?
they didn't.
They did because they
didn't
started this
plaster
thing
it.
from. No, they did. They had to put. No, they fucking did. I remember when they did, and that was why I said, oh, if it's gonna be about war now, let's fucking that was
Do what we do in wartime.
exactly. So then after a while, once it started to impact frontline workers because of leaders' incompetency, and not to pigeonhole any fucking party.
Sure.
It's just because of incompetency of an entire fucking group of people. You can't just. I don't just blame one person. That's why they're all fucking there. They're all fucking responsible. They're the ones who's supposed to be making decisions up to whatever's
They're
within
representatives.
whatever's within their power to do. It's their fucking responsibility.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So that's like, there's no way around it. That's how it has to work. If not, then they're useless.
Right.
Why the fuck are they even there?
Right.
So, but the fucking so then the frontline workers start getting just shafted hardcore by that incompetency, and then we're like, oh well, and it is true. Like it showed how necessary medical people, grocery store clerks, just anything that's necessary for us to continue existing, just showed how important they are. But then they're like, now we're selfless heroes because we go to work every day where we get paid, and our job's really not that shitty aside from the fact we have to wear a mask now. And okay, a lot of people are dying, so I understand that, but still, it's like, to me, a lot of that came from the incompetence, because they did not, it took them a long time to even get the vaccines in motion. They were more focused on arguing over stupid shit, and like, if you look at the conversations people were having, even, it's just like, what the fuck is happening here? And that's how I feel with the war on drugs and terror, because I don't know, to me, it's like, it's complete cognitive dissonance, because you can't get rid of something that you need to perpetuate to keep your standard of living, dude. And it's nothing personal. It's just like, it doesn't work. So that's, to me, it's like, honesty's not good here, because it's like, people don't want to understand, like we were talking about earlier, how fragile it is, how unstable it is, and not only that, like, that we're not sure how much good we're even doing, like, as people here or anywhere, like, because we're gonna have our own biases, and like, what standard are we living up to? Of course, we're gonna be conveniently on our own side, but people always use that to push a political agenda. That's the problem, is they'll use that argument to push an argument to be specific. But it's like, humans are all just, we're like on this planet in of ourselves, like we are in a fucking mess, dude, and of course it's good to be hopeful and positive, but that's how people need to get through the day. But when you really sit down and think about it, it's like, it's going to take a lot of work still. Like, I feel like we rested for 300 years in certain ways, and I feel like it's really catching up now. Like,
How do you mean?
What I mean is, like, I feel there's aspects of civilization where we just got comfortable. Technology became so good, and everything else got elevated to a point where it's like, we don't, it's like shifting from being hunters to jobs. It's kind of similar aspect. Like how there's parts of civilization, I feel, in society, even just the construct that we reinforce ourselves individually or as groups, hasn't adapted in certain ways because of luxury and technology. And not to blame that, not to pigeonhole it, it's just natural.
Because we really have a need.
Exactly.
A survival need.
I just think it eliminates, like, it's too comfortable. It's like that, I forgot what aphorism it is, fighters even use it sometimes, to go back to the UFC, like how, like silk sheets, waking up in silk sheets. Like, people who have less are going to be a little more driven, or you know what I mean? Like, if you have to, you know what I mean?
I totally understand what you're saying.
I'm going to show you.
I get you. Yeah, for sure. And I think what I wanted to say about the war on drugs, the war on terror, and the war on COVID is that, like, all of these things are like, our politicians are basically turning in, senior projects, if you will, to us that have exciting looking titles and have absolutely zero fucking content. right? They're like, the war on drugs, right? And it's like, oh, I'm on board. Like, the intent behind that is clean up the streets, right? Let's get people sober. Let's get the drug dealers off. There's no more murders.
They have to put a little leverage out there. And the reason why they do that is so that people could hear what you're saying and go, but they do this. See, it's like they're just like, let's do just a little enough that can convince them that we like kind of care. Enough to where they're like, they're not shysting. They wouldn't shyst us. So there has to be a little leverage. But I agree, because that's what it is. Why else would it be hot air bullshit unless they're just pulling a fucking wool over people's eyes?
Well, I don't see. I'm not saying that they're purposefully turning in these senior projects. I'm not saying that they're sitting at home waiting to turn these projects in late to us with zero content. What I'm saying is that
they don't know what
they sit around. They're like, you know what they're like? They're like a fucking 7-year-old kid who's like, I'm gonna grow up and be Superman. Like, okay, buddy. Like, okay. I'm gonna grow up and save the world. You're like, yeah, okay. You'd be lucky if you saved yourself, but okay. Same thing with these politicians. They're like, we're gonna go to war on drugs. We're gonna clean up the streets. Everybody's gonna get sober. You're like, okay, buddy. Same thing like the war on terror. Oh, we're gonna make sure there's no more terrorism. We're gonna take the cuffs off of our intelligence communities, and they're gonna be able to peer into all this data, and they're gonna make sure that they prevent these things before they happen and make you all safe. And then we're like, okay, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm for that. And then like 25 years later, there's still a bunch of shit that's happening, right? And then what do? They're sounding the alarm. The media sounds the alarm on more so on domestic shit now than they did, 15, 20 years ago on international shit, right? So where did the war on terror focus all of a sudden? I feel like all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're gonna, what do they keep bringing up? January 6th. Oh, January 6th, that was a travesty. That was, storm the Capitol. It was an insurrection. It's like, okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that walked in a door that was fucking opened up by the police officers from the inside.
Even the language they're using, like they're dramatizing. Like if you were talking about like an actual insurrection, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? It's like, god damn, like guys.
That's not.
Have you read a book? Has anybody read a fucking book?
Dude, it's like okay. Look at honestly. I'm gonna just use a reference. Think of Die Hard, okay? Think of the actual movie Die Hard, and think of that fucking dude who takes over Nakatomi. That's a fucking like insurrection type people, and they would. I'm dead like people here. That's what sucks about being privileged and nothing ever really happening, and people not being around, or like being from El Salvador or Somalia or other places. And I'm not even saying like I am. It's just a fact, like. There are people who are fucking... Dude, if they were organized and they really wanted to cause damage, even in the U.S. right now, they could. There's a lot of people who could. And especially people within the justice system.
Oh,
they're like... You talk even talking about like the CIA and the FBI, the higher up your like access to information is, the reason why there is that secrecy and that compartmentalization and everything else is because you're being introduced to information that can jeopardize everything. Or the safety of, and obviously if there is information like that, then, like the higher up you go, the more of a liability you are as well. So it's like, and no one, and it is pyramid, like, like how common people don't, like, and I'll just say common people is in the general population. What I mean by common people who live, like, are under either a certain amount of money or power or access or whatever due to not having influence or enough status or blood or whatever the fuck it is to know, like, what a lot of other people don't. Yeah.
Let me have my yacht. Okay? Let me have my yacht.
Sorry, Kitty. I don't mean to you, buddy. Well,
What's here?
Terror, COVID, drugs.
Well, so what I was saying is that they basically give us an empty basket, right? They basically and they put a good title on it. They wrap it up all nice and pretty, like the Easter baskets that you see at like CVS. You're walking down the aisle and you're like, "Oh, that's fucking pretty," right? And then if you unwrap the packaging and you open it up and look in there, the ones at CVS are actually very good. But what I'm saying is, like, imagine them not having any candy in them or anything. You'd be like, "Oh, this isn't what I bargained for."
Imagine just being cat shit in there.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly.
Even worse, not just having nothing. Nothing would be nice.
So government basically, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make sure all this stuff happens," and you're like, "Fantastic! That's a great idea, right?" But they always fuck it up. They always fuck it up.
Well, it'll go with the war on COVID. See, like what they did with the war on COVID was they waited hella long, hell of incompetence, hell of slow, let the virus fucking spread and go to just like for at least 2 months, and then they started to take it more seriously, and then even a little longer. And
did you ever hear about Event 201?
Oh, what were you just
the war on COVID? Selling us an empty basket of goods. Good title on it.
Okay, so it was like breaking, like they let the problem get out of fucking control, and then they come in and offer a solution, which they should have done in the fucking first place, and they were like, and that's a politics. It's like, it's not even, to me, it's not a party thing. This is not a new fucking, this is not some, I hate, and this type of like panicky fucking irritation, because I've dealt with so many people who are like, no, their politicians are like, they're morally sound. like, come on. I mean, for real, like, I get they're human. A lot of them probably are decent people, but they're not.
Well, AOC's morally sound.
I mean, some of them. I don't know. Like, so here's the thing, dude.
Come on, man. That was a joke. You didn't catch it.
I'm just talking like with COVID, especially, like, even now, like, there was a lot of incompetence, and there's no way to fix that, and I feel like that is kind of how it is with the war on drugs and terror too, because we as a civilization, we are not self-aware and accountable enough to understand or alter what we are doing that perpetuates it, because we don't even fully understand it ourselves. So all we do is declare war, but it's like that doesn't fucking, and the thing is, and it seems to me a lot of the war is declared because of our own incompetence to begin with. So which is almost like because we are perpetuating it. So and that's what I mean with COVID, war, and drugs, and it's almost like with drugs. What are those countries that just let people take whatever and they can come in? I forgot, there's one country that lets people do whatever and they come in, and if they want to get off it, they'll let them, or if they want to keep taking it, they'll monitor them and let them fucking take drugs.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard about those too. Aren't those in like Nordic
Sweden
countries or something?
Some shit like that. Yeah. Switzerland, Sweden. That's where chicks can walk around with AKs, or like in Fort.
Something. They walk around with something.
Yeah.
But no, I hear you loud and clear. It's usually incompetence, right?
Clark.
Like, for example, if most people in America had sufficient levels of vitamin D, and if most people in America were not obese, COVID wouldn't even have been a reality last year. But what I wanted to say was, did you ever hear about Event 201?
I don't know.
Event 201 was a multi-government exercise about a global pandemic. And took place September 2019. September 2019. The first bit of coronavirus infection that we know about, I believe the first reports were in China mid-December.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything until March.
Well, a lot of stuff happened. Kobe died mid-January. Remember, that was a big month for us. I was just saying, the big month for the news cycle. Think about how the news cycle works.
Think about the moon cycles. Okay, anyways.
Think about the moon cycles.
So anyways, that's from December.
But no, but I'm
March,
saying, so December. So, and then by the way.
You shit till March.
By the way, I think it was December 18th or December 19th. You can fact check this. Moderna signed a contract with the NIAID, the NIH, and the NIAID to develop a coronavirus vaccine.
When?
Fact check that. December 2019. Fact check that. December 2019.
Fact check that.
Fact check it.
Run it.
Run it.
Run it.
I want it all. So that's for real. I tell people that all the time.
December 2019.
I tell people that all the time, and they fucking look at me like I'm crazy. Like, bro, September 2019 they ran a fucking rehearsal, right? December 2019 they started developing the vaccine. We had our first death. First death was in Bay Area in early February. It was like February 8th. It was in like San Jose. Okay, that was our first death out here. Anyway, all I'm saying is they sell us a bag of goods, and what the difference between the intent, which is always wonderful, I can always get behind the intent, or almost always, right? But the way they fucking
It's
implement
just words
things
on paper. Here's what they do: is they're like, and that's why I like the senior project analogy. Is it'd just be like it'd be like. I'm like, like I'm gonna do all this bullshit I just wrote down.
You're right.
It's gonna be wonderful. You guys are all gonna feel safe and secure. Go to sleep. Your kids are good. God bless the country. Positivity is good. Goddamn. Well, give us your money. Continue to give us control. Give us your attention. I want you to suspend all disbelief in anything I have to say right now. Yes, do that. Now, blah, blah, blah. Hoorah, hoorah. I tell you what you want to hear. Suck my cock. And then goodbye. And that wins them over every time. The rap. People just buy into it, dude, and they fight. It's amazing. It's like they just get handed. Here's the narrative. You just take that and believe that.
And they're like,
oh, if you challenge this,
thank you.
I don't want to be your friend. I mean, okay, and I get it in some situations, dude. Like, I get, like, and that's the problem. Is it's so brilliant. It's really fucking ingenious. It's just ingenious and like the most rat cum slurping.
Dude, it's like, here's the thing. It's like taking what you could see on the level of a family, like the way a mother
It's
and father
exploitation, dude. It is.
deals with a daughter and a son, and you just duplicate that and scale it up to a society.
It's even worse than that.
But you can boil it down to these types of things. Like, for example, are mom and dad conspiring against us? Like, no, they're not. But meanwhile, they're back in their fucking room like, God.
Let's introduce the nuance.
Okay.
It's different with mom and dad, so I don't like the comparison because, generally speaking, there's obviously even more nuances there.
Gender is a fucking
multifaceted nuances here. But okay, let's just go to one level. So one level from where we started. So the nuance that just entertain and slip in there would be you're gonna have more empathy naturally, not only because it's your in group, it's your own fucking blood, but because you spent a lot of time around that person. The difference with politicians and other people in positions of power is they're not getting that. I mean, they are with the public on like how you doing, how you doing, but it's segregated. It's weird. It'd be like if you're being a cop. Don't you think that's going to influence the way you're thinking when you're the only dude who has a fucking gun here, is roaming around and have a license to kill or shoot whoever the fuck gives you a problem? Like, same with politicians. Like, you have status, and that changes how you see the world. It's like with celebrities. Like, so you're going to have natural allies by virtue of your job or whatever the fuck, like your perspective, that is going to. So anyway, so with politicians, it's like they are not going to have. So as far as it being mom and dad, and I do call it governing daddy and mommy, but it's not the best of comparisons because, like they don't have that kind of empathetic fucking connection, or like there's no.
Foster mom and dad.
Well, let's
like a foster mom and dad that have already had like that have already had like 30 kids
And-
in and out of their house.
and they all died, and and they're very money oriented.
And they get paid for every single one that's
They're like
already died.
slave drivers,
They still get paid.
and
They get paid $800 a head if you're alive, or $400 a head
They
if
always
you're dead.
want what's best for you, always. But if you don't pay them, you're gonna get put in fucking dungeon downstairs. And there might be a big burly ass gangster in that room who's gay.
Who's-
You know, so I don't know. That's so. Here's the thing, dude. Here's for me. It's like that's what is what deters murder, and that's what's funny to me. Is it's like they
Gay gangsters?
Yeah, in prison. Like for real, like on
No, like
on
stop
the most,
laughing.
on the most
For real.
like
Like on the real
on the realest of levels, dude. If you want to talk about, if people want to talk about what prevents fucking crime and murder, you gotta introduce
Ass rape.
the gay big ass gangsters, or just straight,
Just straight ass rape.
or just straight, not even gangster, just straight up.
Straight ass rape.
Hold on. Okay, hold on. Well, see, we're laughing, people, dude. They know it's fucking true, dude. It's the ultimate justice. That's why when pedophiles and rapists go to jail, dude, that's why you see those memes. Like even with the dude.
I just want to know why I'm laughing about it.
Because it's true. Even with the dude who put his knee on George Floyd, dude, they were putting memes up of him with some big burly black dude standing on him, and you know they're laughing. You know why they're laughing, dude? Because
That
dude,
poor guy.
like, okay, but seriously, check it out, dude. And there's so look, dude. And when you're talking about prison, dude, a lot of the things that's gonna want to prevent people from committing serious like murder or any of those serious crimes, dude, is the potential of knowing that if they go to prison, dude, they're either gonna have to get into a gang, and even if they do that, that's not gonna save them from shit, or they're not, which is gonna have even more problems, especially if they can't just be a non-existing ghost and follow the rules at the same time. But yeah, dude, I mean, think about it. It's like, okay, well, do I want to spend the rest of my life in a box? Controlled, like, really be controlled by the government. Be like a fucking, just be a barcode to whoever, and have no control whatsoever, and then be introduced to people who have no, like that. That's more of a deterrent than anything. But even then, it's like, yeah, but you guys rely on that to keep people in line, like. See, that's where to me it's just like.
Well, I mean, at the very rawest level, that's what keeps people in line. But at the very surface,
let's get at the
listen,
root.
I don't want to get fingerprinted. I don't want to get stamped. I don't want to be in a public holding cell. Literally, I don't want to get. It's not. I guess sure on the very like rock bottom level, it's about the ass rape, but like. But there's a lot. You got to go through a lot before you actually get raped, right? Like there's a lot. Like I don't want to be handcuffed. I really don't want to be handcuffed. Like that's a deterrent for me. Right? I've been handcuffed before.
Well, no,
I just don't like it.
Well, and you're essentially your life. First off, essentially, except to the people that know you, to the government, pretty much. Like you're not even. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. I wouldn't necessarily say a slave unless you're actually doing work on like a field or doing, what was it?
You can be a slave whether your work is physical or otherwise.
I think a prisoner is just obviously a better term. But,
yeah, a prisoner is a better term.
But I think it's extended the web of what, and I think, dude, even with that, that's the same thing with crimes. It's like. There's so many people getting so much trouble for shit that's really not that big of a deal.
I know, victimless crimes. How do you arrest somebody if you didn't hurt anybody?
Well,
no, I don't mean necessarily hurt like blood, like draw blood, like stealing a car. There's still a victim, right? If you stole a car.
Or spitting in someone's face.
But speeding, for example, when there's not been an accident.
Yeah, because it's kind of assuming that, because what they're doing is, mathematically speaking, let's put this on like a grid.
I agree.
So we'll talk about, okay, we'll see, we have to say, okay, how many of these crashes are coming from people who speed? And then how are we getting to the conclusion or correlation or causation between anecdotal experience of cops seeing people speeding the recorded and actually seen accidents on every single, like, we don't have enough eyes and, I'd say, data processed or studied to be able to determine verifiably, empirically, 100% for certain. I know people would probably disagree that crashes only come from speeding, because then you can say, what about the autobahn?
Yeah, there's a ton of variables. And I would say that as cars have progressed in technology to be able to go faster, people have been able to drive faster, and distractions inside the vehicle have also gone up at the same rate.
And then think about, you have elderly people who have trouble with driving
Yep.
sometimes.
So they're slower.
You have drunk drivers. You have people who
drunk, right?
You have teens who are just
So you take all of those things and you throw them into the pot and you mix it up, and you got a fucking car accident stew.
Yeah, so
It's not just
it's not just speeding.
But speeding is an easy one to put your finger on. They go.
Well, and think about this. Yeah, here's a car that goes 150, speed limit is 65.
Yeah. Well, I've also questioned that. So the answer to that is what? Limit the manufacturers?
No, fuck that. There's no answer.
You have to pay a higher registration fee for a car that goes faster.
Of course, why not just pay more money to go faster, dude?
Well,
it's just like, you know what I mean? That's worse than mom. Dude, mom and dad don't fucking make you pay more to go faster, dude. That's some horse shit.
it's just like walking into a candy store, bro. Like, listen, if you're good with the candy corn,
you want to
for $1.50.
If you want 100%,
If you want a gallon of ice cream, you got to spend $6. That's what I'm saying.
If you want the full day of oxygen, like if you don't start paying, you get 75, you get 25% reduced oxygen in your household. If you don't pay that oxygen tax, you're huffing. There's a limited amount of oxygen on this planet.
Can we talk about tax real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about how tax?
The war on drugs, the war on terror, taxes.
They use taxes to disincentivize behavior. For example, why did they increase taxes on tobacco?
To stop people from buying cigarettes.
That disincentivizes
Or
behavior,
to get more
right?
money from
so let me
it.
ask you this. Why do they increase taxes on my income?
To get you to make less money.
They're disincentivizing me earning.
Oh, okay, gee. Yeah.
Right? If a tax on tobacco is basically saying, Wesley, you should probably not smoke tobacco, and a tax on alcohol is saying, Wesley, you should probably not drink as much alcohol, and a tax on gas is, hey, maybe you shouldn't drive as much, then a tax on my fucking income basically tells me, hey, Wesley, you probably shouldn't earn as much money.
It's pretty fucked.
Right?
I guess.
I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody who's paying attention. My mom's paying attention. Hi, Mom. I don't know if she's still with us.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel about taxes, though, right? Like, come on, man. Can you leave my shit alone? Can you leave my income? Listen, if you want me to do better and more things, then incentivize me to do better and more things.
That's how I feel too.
Right?
And
Reward me.
Well, and you know what? And here, let's correlate this now back to socially. So I feel that, and me being someone who's not ordinarily exposed to that type of fuckery that you're talking about, of the expungement of the income.
Yeah.
Constantly, just the invisible hand sneaking into your pocket every whatever. Just hey, thanks. Yeah, just a little bit more. Just and that's just let you get to remember whenever you get down. Whenever you get down in your life starts, you get to remember. Oh, there's someone taking from me constantly. Yes.
At least I'm valuable to somebody.
Okay. So fucking Jesus Christ. So back to so let's go back to socially. So now I'm gonna say, since I'm not introduced, I'm not as expunged as at the current moment. Though I am my own way, dude, I guess. But no, the thing is, so people will, like, socially they do that same thing because shit rolls downhill. So it's like, they're like, let me think. How was I going to correlate this? So that type of attitude of, what is the attitude of constantly, we're talking incentivizing.
Yeah.
So what they do is they'll do the same kind of shit where they'll take and take and take and punish and shame to incentivize.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't work.
Like that's the
and what I mean, it's like on some, it's for some people it does, but a lot of the time I think so socially, that's where I feel that it came from. Is I feel like a lot of our social like workings, a lot of our social aphorisms, a lot of other stuff we use, literally came from internalizing that fucking de-incentive or whatever.
disincentivization.
Disincentivizing corporate or whatever the fuck we're calling that above shit. You know? How they're taking your income? Taxes. So like a similar kind of the taxes governance, so I guess we just call it governance. That same I think socially that we internalize that and then we use that on people, the same kind of strategy. Because we're conditioned with it. Like that's what adults. That's the school for adults. That's where they go, dude. Like that's their school. They go to jobs or they go to wherever, and they're constantly getting that fucking. Like that's why they say you haven't even got fucked by life yet. Like like you're not paying medical. You're not fucking like, dude, like all this shit and getting taxed and shit. And you have to go through it. You have to find it. It's like they should just find it for you. Why the fuck? I don't know. Like I should just be able to.
Yeah, why the fuck? Like for example, I have a tax appointment not tomorrow, but the following Monday. Like, why do I gotta do that? Shouldn't they just?
Why you have to file your taxes? File my taxes.
Yeah, bitch. You know what I mean?
Like people are gonna go, oh, they said bitch, that means it's sexist because they're thinking like people file taxes because only women are second. No, okay, let's calm it down.
Yes, all of those things.
We call men bitch. Like it's more of like an endearing term. If I call someone a bitch, a female or a male, it means that I think they have the self-esteem capable of taking a casual insult where I'm comparing them to a female dog at that moment, and I'm probably not even serious. So then to get offended by that's like, whoa, what's going on over there? Why are we?
What's going on over there?
But I mean, unless it's a little kid or some other shit, or unless you're in the middle of dinner, you're like, hey, bitch, and I mean that's exactly. See, it's really situational in context.
If
this
you
context,
yell at me while I'm eating some pasta, we're gonna have some words.
I wouldn't. I don't know. It depends on the situation, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Feel whatever way you want. We're using bitch in the context of this.
I'm gonna just throw it out there.
Yeah, bitch.
Bitch. But anyway, the question still stands. Like, if you're taking my money, then why do I gotta schedule and like follow my shit? Shouldn't you schedule and follow my shit? shouldn't you reach out to me and be like, excuse me, sir?
Yeah, if you care so much.
Do you have the 16th available to talk about your taxes?
If they care so much.
But I guess here's the deal. If it was like that, I would never make the appointment.
What do you mean?
They'd call me and be like, hey, we need to meet with you on the phone on this day or whatever. I'd be like, okay. And just, I don't know. It'd be hard to track me down.
Politicians should just...
Honestly, we're really moving to the place where we don't even need politicians. They could almost put together cute little memes and stuff on our phones and we could just vote through the phones.
I think the...
Proposition 212, like, save our roads.
Yeah, it is so fragile, and that's really the... that's really the most terrifying part of it is how fragile it is and how dependent it is on pure hypocrisy. And a lot of people will take that and then they'll turn it about race, sex, nationality, culture, this, that, like, so they'll take that like singular truth in a sense, and then they'll put a agenda behind it, and then it warps it. Because it's because they're rushing, I don't know, they're trying to fix it or provide a solution, but it's coming from like a biased perspective, not realizing that this is just like a human condition.
Mm-hmm.
It really, and I know that there's varying levels of, like, it's not to invalidate or berate or suggest to people that their experiences aren't real. It's just the world is complex enough where you can have millions. You're talking about in America, 300 million people. You're talking about the world, I don't know, 6 billion, 7 billion people. And not everyone has. There's a lot of perspectives, dude. There's millions and millions. And the craziest part is that a lot of them can be valid because the world's complex enough to where no matter wherever are you, from city to city to town to town to culture to nation to nation, from even inside there, from every little subset and clique and classification and subject and genre and everything else, like there's so many perspectives of people all over the world. And
Mushrooms.
mushrooms.
That's why people need mushrooms.
Because they calm the inner demons. And then you're able to see more clearly.
Are you able to see?
You can see, you can see.
Clearly now.
You can see.
The rain is gone.
That the rain is gone.
I'm serious though.
What are
A
we
little bit of psilocybin never hurt anybody. A lot of it though, dependent upon who the person
What's
is.
our time?
We're over an hour. It's 3:00. You know where your children are? I'm actually good. We've got a date in the garage.
Bong rip? Bong rip thing?
I cannot publicly confirm nor deny.
Yes.
Zen. All is good.
Do you know what I think Zen is achieved?
How?
When you forget the concept even exists. That's what I think. That's what I think. Like the irony of enlightenment is it's like you can't explain it. Words can't describe it. But the closest that you could even encapsulate it would be to like an animal, which then again is just ignorant in certain ways. To its own
Zen
nature.
to me is when you're lost in
Peace.
a piece of artwork and you're painting and you lose track of time. Like last time you looked at the clock was like 3:15 and then all of a sudden it's 3:48 and you're like, oh shoot, I thought that was only 5 minutes. But really it was 33 minutes.
I imagine a levitating Buddha like this, telling you that life is merely an illusion and ride, and nothing matters.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Read it in a book this morning.
What?
Imagine you're on an island.
Okay, I'm on an island.
And you're not going to survive.
And I'm not going to survive. I'm not going to survive on this island.
But there's a young person
But there's a young person.
on this island. And they will survive.
They're going to survive. And I'm not.
And you have an opportunity to tell this young person
I have an opportunity.
one profound
More profound.
piece of advice or saying or whatever you want to leave them with before you pass.
And I don't know this person.
And you don't know this person.
I don't know anything about him.
All you're drawing on is your own experience.
So I'm on an island and I just see a motherfucker.
You're on an island and you're basically dying.
And I'm dying.
And you have enough energy, you have enough wind.
I get one hoorah of...
You get to this guy sits down next to you and he's like, man, you're dying.
Shit, and I'm going to move on.
And yeah.
What do
and
you
he's
got
like,
for me?
what do you got for me?
You know, I'm going to say, I'm going to tell him... Shit. What book were you reading?
Oh God, what's the title? Hang on, it's right outside. Talk to them. Talk to those people.
I'm going to have to apologize for potentially what my phrase would be. We're talking about a stranger I don't know. We're talking about a young person on an island. And
It's
we're
called-
saying, and I'm dying.
It's called Risk Forward.
Risk forward. Well,
And it was interesting. It was interesting because basically this book is about not knowing where you're headed and talking about comparisons and pressures of life and trying to keep up and then the concept of risking forward and what is your inner current and begin from within, and the deserted island concept. And one way to connect with your inner current is to remember what really matters for you. And if you were on a desert island dying, and you knew you weren't going to make it, and that this was the end, but there was a young person there with you, someone that you cared about deeply, and if before you died you could give that
That's
young
what I care
person
about deeply.
only one piece of advice about life and how they might best live theirs, what would that piece of advice be?
Someone I care about deeply.
Yeah, I guess I messed up.
Yeah, because I was about to say some crazy shit.
Hey, I was just saying, fuck it.
Okay, well, someone I care about deeply that changes it. So let's think now. Well, I'd say, fuck you.
It's a good way to start it.
I'm dying.
They would know that you were sincere. If you started with that, they would know that you were being sincere.
What did I say? I don't know. I think I just say, like, fucking. Probably say nothing.
I would say something like, life's tough. Or like, guess what? It's going to suck sometimes.
That's it. That's the only thing you're going to address?
Yeah.
You're done?
Because I want people to expect, I want people to envision, I want them to hope for good, but to know that there's a baseline of negative that you should probably be pretty comfortable with in life.
And bullshit, but not comfortable. Discerning.
Well, I mean, maybe not comfortable.
We're on the island, though. But see, that was my thing was like, we're on an island. So if we're on an island, we're away from civilization.
Okay.
So we don't need to qualify any of the trappings of.
Okay.
So let's go back.
We're gonna go back to the island.
We'll go back to the island, and now we're just gonna throw away civilization. Fuck you for a minute.
Oh.
You go disappear.
Okay. No construct. Just life.
No construct. This is life on an island. This is a young dude on an island, dude, or a chick, whatever, a dude and a chick, whatever. Maybe there's a.
And they're not going to go back to any societal construct.
No, they're staying on this fucking island.
Okay, well then we're changing the question slightly, but I like it. Let's do it.
But we deeply care about them.
Okay.
Because maybe they're like our cousin that we were once acquainted with. As children, we played on swings, and now the fateful day has come where we're disintegrating into nothingness. And they're moving forward now. What shall we say? Well,
take care of yourself so that you can take care of others.
Don't die.
Don't die today.
Whatever you do. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, on an island, it's just like can you take care of yourself? Are you gonna
take
be
care
good?
of yourself.
Are you gonna be all right?
Are you going to be all right?
I would probably ask them a question. I wouldn't even give. I would ask them, what do you want to hear, know?
What do you require?
What do you need before I expire? What do you need or require?
What do you require?
What do you require? Yeah. What do you require? I did not have sexual relations. I did not have.
Yeah, I would say take care of yourself so you can take care of others. If others happen to be blessed upon your life.
Yeah.
I would say do whatever you feel is right. And I know that that's cliche by saying do whatever makes you happy, but I mean that's.
Yeah, but what if you're like hella warped and what's right's fucked? Because that's usually what it is.
I am literally saying
Caveat.
In subjective terms, do whatever you feel is right, and if they're warped in that sense, and hopefully society catches that motherfucker. Unfortunately, like there's going to be some people like Ted Kaczynski who think that what's right is blowing up people in science and education to stop the further advance of technology. into what we're seeing today.
Yeah, or like
I mean,
or you got the BTK killer, bound,
What was
kill,
his whole thing?
bound, torture, kill. That was what they call him, BTK,
Jesus.
bound, torture, kill. So, and he would do it with actual families. You go in their houses, and like he called them projects. So he would actually study. So he worked for fucking a security company. So he would actually install security at people's houses, and that's how he met a lot of his victims through his job at ADT, wherever the fuck he worked. So he'd work actual security, set up security systems, stalk people, and consider them projects. And it was mostly women. It'd start with women. So you just follow women, follow them back to their house, and then you would go in and you would attack families, sneak in and fucking tie them up, put bags over their head and suffocate them, and then he would jerk off with their corpses. He wouldn't touch them, but he would just the fact that he killed them, like over a little girl. So like like that. But to him, when you listen to his case, how nonchalantly and casually, like they're asking him details, and he's like he's like responding like it's normal, like it's almost like it's like he doesn't even, I don't know how to describe it. And that's what I mean is that to him that's like so right. For me it's like it depends on the person, because for some people it's more of like do whatever you think is wrong. in that sense, like if you have fucked up input, like for people like for instance people with mental health shit, go to therapy. Go to therapy, test out, but take care of yourself too. Don't just not, like try to fix your mental health by saying affirmations or, shit. You need to either like stay healthy physically, stay healthy with your food, and then, if you're still having issues, talk to someone. See
on an island.
And if that sucks, then go to another one. And if that sucks,
Go to
then go to
another
another
island.
one. And if
Go to another island.
And if that sucks, go to a legitimate island like Thailand.
Go to a real
Go
island.
to fucking Thailand.
A real island.
Or Nepal. Or fucking Egypt. Or some fucking country. Go get mixed with a bunch of foreigners and go take a bunch of food and just shove it in your fucking face and enjoy it. And then breathe and look at the sunset and then go to the ocean and then go fucking jump off a fucking boat and get eaten by a shark.
Whoa.
I'm just joking. No, but seriously. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I'm done.
Yeah, that's good. All right. And we'll catch you next time. You can find us anywhere.
We started off a little rough, but
No, we started off and we landed the plane. We're good.
Okay.
Fuck them if they don't like it.
Yeah. Exactly.
See you later.